Hello again, and welcome to another adventure in book hunting. This particular episode is dedicated to a good friend that recently passed away. Um, Went to his memorial service yesterday. R.T. Andrews, known him for about 15 years. Uh, he was an older gentleman and lived a long life, but it's still sad to see him gone. Um, RT always had a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye, and like I say, just was a really great man. And his family and friends and all of us who got to know him over the years are really going to miss him. Um, but it's because of his memorial service, kind of got a nudge to go on a book hunt to kind of cheer myself up. Um, and also in thinking about RT's passing, thinking, I never really talked to him about books. We talked about a lot of things, uh, went to many social events together, but never talked to him about what he read. Now, I know he was a passionate born again Christian. He certainly read the Bible and knew the Bible well, but beyond that, I got no idea what his reading interests were, if any. So just before I go through this fairly large haul. Uh, just want to encourage folks, reading can be a social activity. And I think reading is best when it's a social activity. Of course, BookTube, which I guess I'm kind of a part of, uh, is part of that. Book clubs, just having a group of friends that you can talk to about the things you read and things you want to read, and sometimes read things together so you can just share that experience. If you don't do those kind of things, I just strongly encourage it. It'll make your reading life so much more enjoyable. But in any event, after his service, I had some work to do, and the town where uh, I had to do that work has a couple of actually did have three of my favorite book hunting targets. One of them apparently is closed now, um, but the other two were open, and I think I'll just try and go through my two hunts together here. Um, we'll do the first one will be a Christian charity shop that I go to from time to time, and I got a stack of books there, and a good chunk of these I'm going to keep. Um, I can do this with my charity bookshop stack, but just I'm going to run through them real quick. Um, a novelization of the movie The Love Bug. There's Herbie, the sentient Volkswagen bug. Um, I'm not mistaken, this movie was done in the late 60s. I saw a re-release of it when I was a small child um, in the theater. But this is a novelization based on the screenplay for this movie, and it's just Disney silliness. But nostalgia made me want to get that. And it's only, I think, 90-ish pages, 93 pages. So this will be a quick read. I'm going to read it um, and probably pass it along. Not the kind of thing I want to keep forever. Um, I found myself a penguin I did not have. Uh, and anybody who's watched this channel long enough knows it's kind of a weakness, some would say sickness that I have. This is Oliver Goldsmith's The Vicar of Wakefield. Uh, don't had not heard of this work before. Of course, Oliver Goldsmith was a poet, novelist, playwright. The one thing I know for sure I have read by him is his play She Stoops to Conquer. I actually saw it performed live. So I expect I would enjoy him. And with with my Penguin Classics, um, it's a might read. I've got a lot of reading to do. You can see over my shoulder here. But this will be a proud addition to that shelf just over my shoulder there. The next one is an old Airmont Classics edition of four plays by Heinrich Ibsen. Um, this one's a bit troubling for me because this is the plays A Doll's House, The Wild Duck, Hedda Gabler, and The Master Builder. I was certain I already had three out of those four plays, and I thought Signet Classic form, but I cannot find them. So this is a keeper. I read A Doll's House, and may stand to read it again, and the others are potentials. And I like to keep, a selection of classics. It's the one thing that in my collection that's growing rather than shrinking. I need to get a handle on my collection because I thought I already had this and now I can't find it. So as from now, it's a definite keeper for me. This one, oh goodness, this is a copy of Astounding Science Fiction magazine from March of 1959. So several years older than me. This was one of the seminal science fiction digest magazines. As you can see, it's that small size. Look at that ad from 1959. Um, uh, I'm fairly sure this publication continues on. The title was changed from Astounding Science Fiction to Analog decades ago. But as far as I know, that magazine is still going. The other ones that at least until recently, I know were being published, Isaac Asimov's science fiction magazine and the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, which I believe I read went defunct in the last few months, which is sad. I used to subscribe to that one, and I used to buy this over the counter when I was a young person reading a book a day. And I think there's a book reading event coming up soon, Rocket Summer, where participants read vintage science fiction. This will be my selection for it. There are stories in here by authors I know, which probably would not be the case if I read an issue, say the March issue from this year. Um, the main novelette is by David Gordon, who I don't think I'm familiar with. And then there are short stories by George O. Smith. Don't think I know him, but the next two I do. Short stories by Algis Budrys and Robert Silverberg. I've read both of those and enjoyed both of those. And finally, there's a serial because I remember when I would buy this, one of the reasons you continued to buy it was because they would serialize a short novel. This one contains part two of a novel by Murray Leinster, uh, who was a big deal back in the 50s and 60s. But anyway, this is I think would qualify as an entrant for that reading event, and it's short enough for me to handle, so I'll be keeping it at least that long. And I've not looked at value for this, but it's in really good shape. A magazine over 65 years old. Um, might have some value. Let's see. All right, I think. Oh no, there's at least one more I'm gonna keep. Um, Next, I found The Secret Indian, which is in the series that began with Indian in the Cupboard, which was made into a film quite a few years ago. Um, anyway, I anytime I get these, I snag them for the Hatter because they're still proving popular, and there's a market for them. Don't know that I would ever read them. I've not read any of them, but once again, I always keep an eye out for my bookstore. This next one I have some mixed feelings on. Copy of Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin, and says it's the 150 a one a not the but a 150th anniversary edition of the book. But the thing that got me and I noticed particularly is look who did the introduction. Special introduction by Ray Comfort. And anybody who knows who Charles Darwin is and knows who Ray Comfort is, well, Charles Darwin was and Ray Comfort is, would think that's a weird combo. It would kind of like be if a flat earther wrote an introduction to a book about globes. I think that's a fair analogy. Uh, if you get a chance, well, because I'll say this: Ray Comfort. I don't think has a good grasp on what Darwin's theory of evolution was or is. Um, and like I said, I leafed through his introduction. It's got copious footnotes. Um, one, I don't think he gets it, and two, he certainly doesn't believe in it. And it's one of those kinds of books where the introduction basically spends several dozen pages telling you why you shouldn't read this book, or if you do read it, why you shouldn't believe any of the things in it. I noticed he talks a lot about DNA in his introduction, which, of course, Mr. Darwin here knew nothing about. Mr. Darwin formulated his theory of evolution by natural selection without knowing how that occurred. He didn't understand the mechanisms of genetics that we do now. Gregor Mendel came after him. But in any event, just because it tickled me a little bit, I snagged this, and it's in pretty good shape. I'll probably donate this one. I've already got a very nice modern library edition of Origin of Species. So this one isn't one for me to keep. I might read the introduction first, but no. Just once again, engage with the ideas for what they're worth. Oh, uh, Google or do a search on YouTube for Ray Comfort and Banana and Atheist's Worst Nightmare. Watch that, and you'll see what I mean about somebody who doesn't understand evolution or much of anything about the theory. Anyway, enough about that. On a very nice copy of Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. In a class. Oh, I am familiar with this line. This is from Becca, which is a Christian publisher who does a lot of material for homeschool students from a Christian perspective. And a very, very nice copy of Julius Caesar. I've got an omnibus, so I don't need it, so that'll go to the bookstore. This one was extra fun. I already have this. This is fairly old edition. I think this is from the 40s. The book written in the 19th century. Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly. This book probably restarted the modern fascination with the lost continent of Atlantis. I have a copy just off camera over here in a section of books where I have a collection of pseudoscience. This is definitely pseudoscience. Uh, but I've already got a copy, and people get into this kind of thing. Oh, I get into this kind of thing. So I've snagged this one. This one's in slightly better condition than the one I have. So this one's going to go to the bookstore because there's plenty of folks out there who love reading this stuff. I've also got Graham Hancock. Oh, what else? Gavin Menzies. It's that kind of thing. It's fun to read. All right, but okay, next. Another one I'm keeping. Just glancing at what I had from the other source, I don't know that I'm keeping anything from there, but I'm keeping several out of the Christian thrift shop. This is a omnibus collection of E.M. Forster, three of his novels, Room with View, Howard's End, and Maurice. I have a collection, actually a different 3-in-1 of E.M. Forster, and I also have a Reader's Digest Classic Edition of Passage to India. But I think I like this edition better than the other one. I don't remember what the third novel is in the edition that I'm swapping out, but I'd rather have Maurice than what was in the other one. And I would love, love, love to have a print copy of The Machine Stops, a science fiction story, dystopian science fiction story that he wrote almost 100 years ago, or around 100 years ago. Love to have that in print. That's one of my own book hunt goals. I'd love to have that. But for now, I'm going to keep this one and enjoy it. I probably will read Maurice because I've not read it, but I want to. All right. And finally, from the thrift shop, a Reader's Digest classic. It's a little bit scuffed right there, but otherwise in really good shape. And Reader's Digest, they don't do it anymore, but they had a line of classics. Let's see if I can get out of the glare here. This, of course, is Captain Courageous by Rudyard Kipling, a great novel. And like all of the Reader's Digests, you'll want to look for this. If you find Reader's Digest, you want to see if it has the insert. The insert tells you about the book and about the author. This one's bigger than many. See, there's Mr. Kipling. To be complete, you have to have that insert. And many of them have spot illustrations. Yeah. There's one. There, yeah, here we go. They are really nice editions. They're very durable. They have a good texture. And it's one of my preferred formats. I'd rather have this than actually a Penguin Classic, at least for now. But I actually already have this book in this edition. This one, once again, is in slightly better condition. So it's going to go to the Hatter for sale. And you'll be able to see it there. Probably by the time you're watching this video, if you're watching this video, obviously, it'll already be dropped off at the Hatter, and they probably will have processed it, because this video was probably going to be a few days after I actually film it that's going to go public. Anyway, that was the stuff I got at the Christian thrift store. The rest I got from a public library, and this public library is the gift that keeps on giving. They had a reopening several months ago. It had major renovations, reconstruction. Had a blowout of a sale that I documented on this channel. Recently, probably within the last month, I hunted there, and I went back again because I happened to be in town. Once again, did not expect to find a whole lot, but found quite a few things. I'm gonna try and do them in big swaths, so this video doesn't go horribly long like many of them do. I got this collection of Anne Rice hardbacks in pretty good condition. Let's show you each one. Anne Rice is not my thing, but she is a lot of people's thing. Lasher, the Vampire Armand. Now this one I remember when it came out. The Tale of the Body Thief. And The Witching Hour. I say not my thing, but she's writing in the horror genre in this case. And she's not King or Kuntz. So, a welcome addition to the bookstore's horror section. All right. Let's see. Where to go next? Okay. Let's separate him here. I don't know if they need this one. This is Stieg Larsson's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in an edition I'd never seen before, but it was in pretty good shape. A Nicholas Sparks book that I'd never heard of. See Me? Yeah. It's just in pristine condition. Just a beautiful book. And the bookstore has customers who really enjoy Nicholas Sparks. I have one in mind. I don't know that she's read it. If she hasn't, I bet she would like to have it. So I'll let her know the store's going to have it here very shortly. But in any event, kept that one. Another modern piece of fiction. Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. A really nice edition, once again. All the stuff I got that I gathered, some of it's kind of, I wouldn't say generic, but general, but it was all in really great shape. Here's The Blind Side with the movie tie-in cover. And once again, in just wonderful shape. And then John Green's A Fault in Our Stars, once again, with the movie cover. But once again, just beautiful condition. And I think this one has movie stills in the center. Yeah. Let's see. So, yeah. Hey, and any movie that has Willem Dafoe in it is okay by me. Oh, and this really, really beautiful edition of The Outsiders. If you're like me, you got to read it in high school, and this one is just like I said, is beautiful. French flaps, deckled edges, very durable. Was tempted to keep this one. In fact, this one is the Platinum Edition. I wonder if that means 50th anniversary. Could be, because this is a book that's almost as old as me. But yeah, just a wonderful story. Of course, adapted for a film. Um, but just a really wonderful book, and this will, I'm sure, go on staff favorites at the Hatter when it hits the shelves there. Yeah, just yeah, get this one if you want a copy of The Outsiders. This is a great one to have. Just a beautiful book. All right, and that is that. All right. Oh, I was wrong. I do see some things I'm keeping out here. Just continuing on. What do we got here? We'll do some YA and some middle grade books real quick. I found the extras by Scott Westerfeld. Yeah, Scott Westerfeld. I've hauled the trilogy. Did not realize there's a fourth, so it's no longer a trilogy. But yeah, Uglies, Pretties, and Specials was the trilogy, and I found this the fourth one. And I like this format. This is a small-sized hardback. And once again, yeah, look at that wraparound cover. Anyway, great looking book, which I will donate. Um, Amanda Hawking, who I've hauled before. And this, I think, is also part of a series. I'm learning about YA. Mm, read some. In fact, when I was a YA, I read a lot of it, just didn't know it was YA. But yeah, once again, good looking book. And I know Amanda Hawking has quite a following, so hopefully that will do well. We Were Liars, Family of Liars, a prequel to We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, another popular YA author. And once again, a beautiful edition, like new. And then a swath of middle grade books. Um, these two are first two books in a series. They're Rick Riordan, Red Pyramid, Throne of Fire, books 1 and 2 in that series. And the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series, The Lost Hero. One of them's a little bit scuffed, but otherwise they're in real nice condition. And these are, yeah, even has a pretty good spine there. And some of these books I got from the library ongoing sale are ex-library, but most are not. Most are just books that have been donated. Actually, the ones I'm keeping are all ex-library, but yeah, and we're almost to them. A Barbara Kingsolver novel I've not heard of, Unsheltered, and Barbara Kingsolver almost qualifies as a local author. She lives in southwestern Virginia. Don't exactly recall where, but an easy drive from where I am right now. Popular author. I really enjoyed. Which one was it? Poisonwood Tree. That's probably your most popular one. As I recall, about a missionary in Africa. But I don't know anything about this one. But we'll see if the bookstore wants it, and if they do, it's theirs. All right, we're in the home stretch. Stuff I'm gonna keep. Rounding out helping to round out or add to be more accurate, my Civil War collection. This is a book about the Ruffin family, particularly Edmund Ruffin. Edmund Ruffin, there's Mr. Ruffin, wrote a book before the American Civil War entitled Anticipations of the Future, and it's probably the first book about the South winning the war, the first counterfactual book about the South winning. He was one of those fire eaters. In fact, after Lee surrendered, at Appomattox. Um, and a lot of things were changing in the South. Obviously, that was just one of the really obvious ones. He took his own life. Um, just you couldn't live in a world where there was that much social change. Like I said, one of the ones they call the fire eaters. I mean, the folks who were really hardcore secessionists and and pro-slavery. But an intriguing individual, written by David Almendinger, or Almendinger, if I don't know. I'm probably slaughtered that. But no, I'm very interested in reading more about Edmund Ruffin's life. I've read his book, Anticipations of the Future. I have it as a PDF. The only thing I think he gets right about how the Civil War starts is that the flashpoint is Fort Sumter, which was, thinking about it, a pretty obvious flashpoint. But that one's keeping for me. And since we just mentioned Appomattox, a book about Appomattox, um, Richard Wheeler. I'm familiar with these titles, Sword Over Richmond and A Witness to Gettysburg. This is the first one of his I've found in the wild, and I really don't have a book about the Appomattox campaign. I've got several books about the aftermath, about the quick collapse of the Confederate government after Appomattox, but I don't have a book specifically on Appomattox. So glad to get that. And then finally, uh, an interesting book about a couple of individuals who were pivotal people in the Confederate secession. We have, yes, Robert Toombs and Alexander Stephens. Alexander Stephens was the vice president of the Confederacy, I believe, throughout the whole existence of the Confederacy. And Robert Toombs was their first Secretary of State. If they had won, these guys would have gone down in history as founding fathers. And I would characterize them as more moderate individuals in that era, in the secessionist movement. But they were both truly, sincerely ardent states' rights individuals, and that's why they supported the Confederacy. Obviously, tons and tons of prominent Confederates are supporting the secession movement, the breakaway, in large part to preserve slavery. Um, these guys, I'm sure that was a-okay with them, but these guys were part of the sincere states' rights portion of that movement. And in fact, they came into conflict with the administration. And in fact, Robert Toombs stepped down as Secretary of State fairly early. I think he was replaced immediately by Judah Benjamin, if I'm not mistaken. Judah Benjamin, oh goodness, he was in 3 or 4 cabinet positions. I know he was. I think he started off as Attorney General, and eventually wound up as Secretary of War. But no, but Robert Toombs started out there, and they ran into conflict with the Confederate government because the Confederate government became a nationalist movement. Jefferson Davis, as the war drove on, was trying very hard to build a nation, um, which runs counter to the idea of the Confederacy being a confederation, hence the Confederacy of independent states. Um, they came to conflict over initiatives to draft soldiers, um, to basically forge a united nation, which the Confederacy had some success in doing, but one of the reasons they clearly failed beyond the obvious ones, material disadvantage, numerical disadvantage, was that they weren't successful in forming a united Confederate government over all 11 to 13 states, depending on how you count them. Anyway, 2 interesting characters in history. I'm looking forward to reading them. And I believe that's the end of the haul. Um, oh, and just for a note, for those of you who are interested in the monetary part of things, um, I spent $3 at each location. So all the books I've showed you, I purchased for the princely sum of $6. I did well. I did well, without question. I think the ones I'm keeping are worth more than $6, at least to me. And would have been glad to, pay that much for them. Um, once again, lessons learned. You don't, this does not have to be an expensive hobby or vocation. You can find some really interesting stuff for very little money. Um, and once again, uh, you can find interesting stuff cheap. You can build a huge library. You can build a huge library and not spend a lot of money. But in any event, I think that's all I have to say about the books. Once again, this video is in memorial to R.T. Andrews, a great man. And oh, I remember many times when I would meet him, um, we'd, you know, have, the introductory conversation you have when you see somebody you haven't seen for a minute. And he would often say, after, as you made your greetings, well, I'm glad you got to see me. Like I said, once again, with a grin, with his permanent grin and that permanent twinkle in his eye. He will be missed. But on that note, I will end. Once again, stay safe, and have good book hunting. Talk to you again soon.